Okay. So yeah, in news, looks like The Last Judgment will be The Last Judgment.
Oh no, what's happening?
The Judgment series is ending over disagreements with the PC port of the game and the uh, the talent agency representing Takuya Kimura. So
What do you mean that that they want different royalties for the PC version because of the international audience, or what is it?
those so the game developer and those on the side of the talent agency, Johnny's is the name of the talent agency. They also represent the group SMAP. Are said to have been unable to reach an agreement regarding the platforms to sell the game. Oh, you never heard of SMAP?
I've never heard of SMAP.
SMAP's been around. SMAP's a thing. They were not unable to reach an agreement regarding the platforms to sell the game on. And basically, Judgment, originally released on the PS4, remastered, came out for the PS5, Stadia, and Xbox Series XS. The new ones will release on PS4, PS5, XS, and Xbone, but the regular Yakuza games do get ported to PC.
The personal computer. Yeah,
exactly.
True.
As did the most recent one, 7, Like a Dragon. And it turns out that this company has a ridiculous history of absolutely doing everything they can to run and hide from the concept of digital content on a computer. The entire idea of anything being accessible.
Computer. Like, because Judgment on my PS4 is digital.
They are not okay with the release of the game on PC. It appears to be that the talent agency's management feels that they dislike the PC overall, and from a business point of view, they feel as if it would be problematic for their ability to protect their ownership of the business model. This is a lot of nonsense wording.
Which is what?
This is a lot of nonsense wording to effectively say that they think that if you have a picture of something on a computer, because people can copy computer files or take pictures of them or whatever, then people can just take whatever they want and use assets, and whatever, when by taking those assets and using them in whatever way, shape, or form, they're no longer they're taking the power of the company away, because the company's job is to protect their ownership over the likeness of their talent, and in this case, the main guy of Judgment.
But the Stadia is a computer.
But it's a set console though, so no, not really.
No, it's not. The computer.
Well then, but it's no, it doesn't feel like it.
Computer. I mean.
Yeah, but it's not. Keyboard and mouse and Windows. Shut up. Uncomfortable.
PlayStation 4 has keyboard and mouse support, and you can rip models off of.
We don't like it. We don't like it. It makes us nervous.
Well,
So
I think the funniest thing about this story is, like, I was also looking into it, and I can't get more other than, no, it's bad!
no one can. No one can. And the reason why you can't nail it,
It looks
the
like
reason
there's
why
nothing there.
you can't nail it down, because it comes down to a board of dinosaurs sitting around a table saying this is just this, we don't accept this. We just don't want it. And when they go, what are you afraid of? They say, we just don't want it. We don't like it, and we don't have to explain it any further. So you're trying to put it into some context where it's like, are you afraid of screenshots? Are you afraid of asset ripping? Because both of those things can still happen when it's on a console. Easily. No problem. In fact, those consoles have share buttons specifically for sharing screenshots and footage of the content of these games. It'd be one thing if it was like, oh, please don't take the likeness of our talent and then use them as a 3D model in something else or whatever. But it's not even that well versed or thought out, because that implies that they understand it to that level, right? Like my initial thought was, oh, they don't want him to be ripped and used in VR chat or for like SFM porn or whatever. But
Too
it's
late!
like, well, now you put a spotlight on it.
No, but like literally too late. He's already been modded into PC versions of other Yakuza games.
But it's not even that smart. That's the problem. It's like it's not even on a level where you're like, oh, that's the like fifth degree fear coming true from a PC rip or whatever. Because if you take a look, so Nibble on Twitter was basically reporting on this a bit, and he explains that they have for the longest while been this way about everything PC related, and you can even go to the SMAP collections on Amazon where they refuse to put a real album cover up because they were afraid of putting digital representations of the artwork of what the physical would look like. They're afraid of a digital storefront, so they just put up a placeholder that says SMAP collection whatever year. And then you get to the absolute absurdity, which is what we've been joking about the entire podcast, where there are photos taken of band members from the previous boy bands they represented, singers and actors, and everyone from their talent agency, and they were literally prohibited from having these actors and members of boy bands and stuff that they represented. They were prohibiting those images of these people from appearing on the internet. They owned their likeness to such an insane degree that they were like, we are not allowing them to be represented digitally at all. And they took this as far as going to scans of digital magazines. If a magazine was sold in print and sold online, the online version would have the literally cut out photoshopped silhouette looking like the background of Persona 4 characters floating around of the talent, because they're like, no, they can't be shown online. We cannot show their faces digitally. They're completely insane. It has nothing to do with being afraid of 3D models ripping. They're just out of their minds. They don't understand what a computer is.
Somebody in the chat just said Kitamura was not allowed to follow his wife on Instagram.
So for the longest while, they had a deal where, because there was the whole boy band, and he managed to get popular enough that he was given the exclusive right to not have to be married and have a child in secret. Every other member of the boy band he used to be a part of was they left the agency. And no one else that they represent is allowed to have anything resembling a relationship of any kind. And lest we forget, other agencies where you got to shave your head. God forbid you put out an image of being a human being. The availability thing,
The Japanese fame industry, like it's easy to focus in on idols because it's so much more obvious, but the industry of being famous in Japan is completely divorced from even the like appearance of reality. Right?
Yeah.
Like let's take the actor who plays in the character in Judgment. I completely forgot his name already, but whatever.
Kimura.
What with the pandemic and whatnot, don't you think it might actually be pretty bad for your career to have your face be invisible as an actor
in a time frame when everything is online and digital, and the only way that people are seeing products, trailers, anything is through the phone or through the internet? Yeah, it would be.
Actors are always trying to get their face out there so people know them and the people want to see them in things.
But here's what's so completely insane is that since Johnny's, the agency, has been around for so long, they have so much power that they're able to do this, and they've been able to keep this up, and they're still very, very influential, and it hasn't affected them to such a degree that they would have gotten rid of this by now. You know?
I remember I remember for a long time when people so there was a long period, it was really bizarre, where you'd get the Japanese voice track if you got one at all, and people wanted it dubbed, and then it inverted, and you would get the dub, and people wanted it subbed in, you know, anime or whatnot. And there was this, like, I want to say like 5-10 year period where you would get the news back, and it was the dub will only be available outside of Japan because the company that works with the voice actors has contracts with them that they have personally asked that their voices never be sold outside of Japan.
Mm-hmm.
And that's when the discussion, or like being able to find out information, would always like completely break down, because it would be like they're not asking for like absurd royalties for like extra Japanese recordings or something. They're just like, no, my performance will only be for Japan forever. And there would be actually no stated reason other than no, don't wanna.
So what we're seeing, right, in all of these things, and just like from the beginning of the podcast, the level of the insanity of the rollback push, going to the Atlas Stegosaurus refusing to let people, you know, stream their games or look at them without going through these absurd hoops and restrictions. All of it is just, it is a violent rage against the concept of social media existing.
Yeah.
And I don't know who the fuck is working at these companies that, like, is under 60, that, you know what I mean? Like, has a word in edgewise, but there's no one telling them that this is
Woolie, if you look at a Japanese population graph, there's probably like 3 people under 60 in that office.
Well, yes, that's a whole other discussion entirely. The aging population is a humongous number, because yes, there's not a lot of young blood coming in these days. But even if you do, you also have to go through the system where you basically have to wait your entire life to become that age to earn the respect to get through the, you know, the hoops and whatever. But a whole lot of really insane old people that don't know what social media is are terrified of it, and they're in charge of films, games, you know, music, just the entire multimedia industry in Japan is under the thumb of like a giant cabal of people that don't understand it and violently hate it. And like when it comes to it, it's just like, well, that's the end of a pretty cool franchise that we thought was going to represent the action game alternative, while Yakuza was going to go on to be the RPG.
In hindsight, they really probably, like at Sega, as we've discussed, noted good business havers, Sega of Japan, should really have probably figured this out sooner before they stapled this franchise to this actor who has this crazy agency.
Well, but here's the thing, you know, is it possible that they looked at the situation and went, oh yeah, no, our other Yakuza games have been killing it on PC. It's been making a ton of money. This is a staple. This is a no-brainer. And they probably thought the amount of money it makes would just be like, guys, of course we're doing this. Look at the revenue, you know? And they probably didn't expect to run into that level of insanity, which, again, these are the same people who we know, they also behave like dinosaurs in their own fields at their own times when it comes to shit like Virtua Fighter. We just talked about it. Like, there are just other forms of dinosaur, you know? But usually you'd think, oh, the money would make them go, oh, my bad. That's real nice. That game's selling really well on PC. Fuck it.
They'll
do your
come
thing.
around.
They'll come around. They're here for profit. That's what it is. You're here. You're in this game to make money, you know? And it's like, no, it's not. That's not what's going on here. You know, it is a ridiculous, like, just, you know, hair trigger reaction. So yeah, you don't get it.
This reminds me of, like, this is like, you know, it's personally affecting to you and I and many of the people who listen to this podcast because we like Japanese produced media. I really like a bunch of animes, and I really like the good old Japanese video games. So this affects me disproportionately compared to, you know, my buddy who doesn't. But it reminds me of, like, the refrain I've been talking to friends of who are still into wrestling, where, like, every day they say a prayer to maybe this one will be the day that Vince's heart explodes. Like, just maybe today he'll have taken too much of the juice and we could have creative control go to anyone but the fucking mega dinosaur that is Vince McMahon.
But that dinosaur is jacked and immortal. That's the problem. He's the Omnisaur. He you know, it's not gonna work for him. I just, like, time will obviously fix this problem.
You know? Don't know that.
Like, Meteor is time, and it is being summoned. We are calling it down. Make no mistake. It might take another 10, 15 to complete the summon, but we are calling the Meteor down. It's just that in the meantime, these insane displays of, like, cropping people into shadow format for social media, like, it's, if they have enough money, if they've been around enough and they're established enough, there's nothing that's going to come along and go, yeah, this is stupid, look over here. And also with this guy, I believe he's the only person who stayed behind, whereas his entire band all left the agency, you know?
Yeah.
So it's one of those stories too where the more I heard about it, the more it was like, well, he's in a unique position of, like, being the one that stuck around long after everyone else left, and so he's kind of like a faithful devotee, you know, of the Johnny's agency and branding. It's crazy. It's some of the wildest shit I've seen, and the more you dig, the harder that you see them fighting, and the more absurd it becomes. And again, and you know, and it specifies in all these articles too that it's like he's probably really upset by this, and he's also someone who, again, he had to get permission to announce that he was married and had a child. That he had to get permission to allow his family to exist. You know,
I bet the actor was like, "Oh, dude, I'm the hero of a cool video game from Sega. That's awesome. Oh, come on, guys. Oh."
And this is where I bring up the question, right? How many times has tying a game franchise to a real-life actor for promotion worked out versus it backfiring horribly?
Go ask the Capcom team that made Onimusha 2.
Exactly.
A game that I'm pretty sure can't be re-released because I think they got, like, limited term rights for the actor because he was dead when they made that game. I don't think they can get the rights again, what with him being now much longer dead.
How many Bujin guys do we need?
Oh.
How many...
You will never get to play Crisis Core officially ever again. Never, ever.
Yeah, it just... And even in the scenarios where it's, like, completely justified, you even have the regret of, you know, let's say one Elliot Page for participating in a David Cage game, you know? Like, you have the Just the parts where it's like, oh yeah, that mistake, that blight of a project that happened, you know. It's kind of a weird thing where I'm like, it just Judgment was cool and it still is, but you're kind of wondering, should we have just made up a random NPC face character and just went a different way with it without tying it to real life, you know?
Yeah, but Hollywood actors. Hey, but TV actors.
And watch them somehow wait 5 years and then they work this out. And then, I don't know, someone walks by him and whiffs a hint of something that smells a little bit like weed. And then the entire Judgment franchise ceases to exist. It's like, oh, he brushed up against some poison ivy. It gives off a scent, and that's the end of that game. Yeah, tying it in with real people in this way, give yourself contingencies, or just make sure you don't overcommit, because who fucking would have thought that the people aggressively fighting against rollback would get out dinosaured by an even older, more ancient group of people that are cutting and cropping social media photos out like completely insane.
It's really interesting because like the Yakuza
X's.
series in particular has like this kind of unprecedented, exhaustive history with using real actors. Like it's everybody, and it's all the hostesses. And like in 6, they got porn actresses involved in the minigame. Like everybody's a real actor in those things, and it's
super
never
cool.
been a problem.
It's super cool seeing that the squad of 3 in 0, seeing Kuze and Amano and or Awano and like all those guys. Like I'm like, yeah, these dudes are rad. Like it's powerful.
Kuze's doing a Yakuza 0 LP, by the way. The actor.
What did I fuck up?
What? No, I said, did you see that Kuze, the actor who plays Kuze, is doing a Yakuza 0
Oh,
LP?
he's playing through it himself. Oh, wow. No, I didn't see that. No, that's great. That's great. Yeah. So, like you have all of that and it works out so well, but then you just get this fucking Samanosuke problem in the worst possible way, But it just, again, it's like, it's the fact that this is, it's happening to the people who are guilty of the same type of crime themselves, Like, who would expect what do you call it? The creature that crawled out of the primordial soup? The first,
yeah,
the first land crawler.
Amphibian. It's all their fault.
Just that screenshot of someone just kicking it in the fucking head, like, fuck that stupid thing. Everything was a mistake.
You fucked it up.
That thing is responsible, They got out dinosaured by the old and the ancient deep. Unbelievable. Yeah, so that's the end of Judgment. Rip.
By Judgment.
Or a new franchise gets announced featuring a lawyer that kicks ass, and it's just some new fictional character.
It's weird because Ichiban and Kiryu don't have actors associated with them.
And it shows aggressively in every cutscene.
Yeah, it sure does. You know what this means? This is a great time for the ending of Lost Judgment to end with a very tragic, super vicious murder of the main character.
You gotta redo.
A last-second character switch.
You gotta redo.
You play as Kaito for the last part of the game.
Hey, yo, check it out. It's Apollo Justice. How you doing? Get De Niro in there. Set it up. Have Luca find a baby. Set it up.